Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Middlegames series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and this one's for the Leela fans. We are looking at a victory of Leela-Zero over Torch in the CCC 21 Blitz Challenger match at chess.com. Why did I select this game? Well, I am actually very keen on games that seem to demonstrate just one theme throughout the whole game. You know, it makes it seem very logical and inevitable almost. And well, apparently, according to Carsten Muller's categorization of chess players, that makes me a theorist. Somebody who just loves you know, those sort of themes that last throughout the whole game. It's probably true. And what can I say? But I think it's absolutely gorgeous, and it's a very unusual theme as well. In Game Changer, we talked a lot about AlphaZero's use of outposts. We mentioned all sorts, including queen outposts, which are pretty rare, it must be said. Gave a couple of examples of AlphaZero. That was more about putting a queen on g6, then supporting it with a pawn on h5, and when the queens get exchanged, white gets an h pawn on g6, you know, which really restricts the opponent's king. What Leela does here is well, absolutely exactly what I was looking for, and well, it's just a constant theme throughout the game. So let's have a look how this went. So this was one of those dodgy Caro-Kann openings that you get in engine tournaments. Yeah, essentially black, you know, gives up the light squared bishop. White gets the two bishops and more space. In the good old days, this didn't seem to make much difference, but nowadays the engines are pretty vicious at putting these away. So, you know, all the engines consider that white's got a fairly substantial advantage here. Many different ways of doing it. Stockfish played the very interesting move King F1 in my engine games, and yeah, then proceeded to try and attack on the king side. Leela played the move Queen G3, just yeah, getting the queen out of the way, eyeing some squares, and kind of asking black really what does black want to do. Note one thing that you know, at various stages black has the possibility of playing c5 here, but the engines were not at all keen on this. I think they generally felt that that anything that opened up the light squared bishop, you know, that was giving white even more advantage compared to the current position. So none of the engines ever wanted to do that. After Queen G3, Torch played Knight F6, Queen F4 from Leela, a little creeping move. The engines generally seem to like it. It stops the knight coming into E4, and yeah, basically doesn't do anything wrong, keeps control, you know, and that's good enough. I mean, just in general, what is white's plan going to be in the future? You'd say that the most natural idea, attack on the king side, maybe if black tries to break out with a move like f5, but otherwise some sort of general advance of the queen side pawn seems the most natural way of increasing your space advantage here. So Torch played knight fe8, and here Leela played the first step in the game that made it such an attractive one to me. Leela played the move Queen E5. I have to say that's probably a move that would just never occur to me at all. Can be chased away by Bishop F6, but the engines weren't particularly impressed. The queen comes back to E3. If you go C5, then Bishop C3. As I said before, the engines consider all these positions to be excellent for white once this light squared diagonal gets opened. And otherwise, yeah, if you give it to Dragon will just go Bishop E7 and just say, okay, I don't want my bishop on F6, so I'm putting it back. So, but black could have done that and ruined our game. But after Queen E5, Torch played Knight F6, and the position of this queen on E5 is just going to become a, you know, a continuous motif, you know, throughout the whole game. And yeah, what does the queen do? Well, the queen exerts you know, quite a lot of influence from E5. Obviously, you know, points towards the king side, looks at that G7 square, also looks towards the queen side. But yeah, you know, it's always easy for black relatively to drive it away. So, you know, it doesn't feel like it's you know, a nail in black's coffin somehow, because, you know, the queen can be driven away. However, just as the game goes on, you just see that the queen seems to exert more and more influence. It's really, really weird. And again, it's something I would never have thought of. I'd just be thinking all the time, oh, well, that queen will get driven away. But for Leela, it's not important. Leela seems to think that every move that black plays to drive away the queen with a minor piece is just putting the minor piece worse. So we'll leave the queen there. And then when black drives away the queen, he will just have weakened his own position. It's just a really long-term way of thinking, and quite hard to grasp somehow. But you'll see what I mean. So c5 was played by Leela, and this is a pretty interesting follow-up. The idea, of course, is that it's going to be just a little bit harder to drive away the queen now with bishop d6 because the c5 pawn is defending it. And after knight d8, then g5 from Leela. And this is another very interesting part of the concept. So with these pawns on c5 and g5, leaving a lot of light square weaknesses, around white center, but taking away a lot of squares from the black pieces. d6 and f6 now no longer available. So knight d5 was played by Dragon and by Torch rather, and now castles. And what's Leela's idea here? It's going to be a queenside advance here. That's just what's going to happen here. And it kind of gets a little bit tough for black to think what to do. I mean, moves like f6, f5 once you've defended the pawn on e6 are possible, but they are going to weaken the black king side and also give a weak e6 square. But waiting might also not be the best thing you can think of. I mean, Torch played knight dc7 here, and Leela played the very striking move f4. So really not caring at all about this dark squared bishop, but just supporting that pawn chain. So if you go f6, we're just going to ignore you and move the queen away, and this pawn chain will remain intact. And by playing f6, you will have just given yourself a weakness on e6. After queen d7, bishop h3 emphasizes that, okay, black, if you want to try and break out and play f6, then watch out for your e6 square. So Torch played knight d5. I mean, Torch basically decided that the time for activity was past, and just sort of decided to wait. And that's quite interesting because I think we've generally seen, and I've got another game to show you after this one, that Torch is a very active engine. It's always going for, or that's my impression, always going for counterplay if it can find it. So the Torch gets reduced to this sort of passivity is actually pretty impressive from Leela. So knight c3 played, rook d8, rook d1, just keeping everything protected. Knight dc7, knight e2, Leela shuffling around a little bit. Leela never minds that. Queen d5 and then queen e3. Interesting. Maybe you do wonder, was it really necessary to avoid the exchange of queens? Because after takes, I can take like this, and then I've got a nice little path for my knight to start attacking lovely outposts on f6 and d6. But Leela, you can always put the queen back later. It doesn't really matter. So Leela just brings the queen back, queen d7, and plays b4 here. Knight d5, and the queen comes back to e5. It's really amazing how Leela keeps on doing that, because there are other decent squares there. I mean, you could go to g3 or b3 or whatever, but Leela just seems to want this like a murderer returning to the scene of the crime, can't avoid coming back. But it's a nice square for the queen. It restricts some black minor pieces, tempts the opponent to weaken itself. What's not to like? But it is really striking. I mean, I can't imagine that I'd be doing this somehow. That's always the things that interest me a lot when I sort of try and be honest with myself and just think, Matthew, I don't think you'd be doing this this move in a game, or just doing it so consistently. You might do it once kind of by accident, but not so with so much purpose just to put the queen on e5 like that. So the queenside avalanche starts. Knight c3, bishop c7, so Torch drives the queen away from e5. Leela doesn't retreat it far though. It could go back to e2, but Leela prefers e4. Doesn't want to be too far away from that lovely e5 square. Knight e7, and now b5. So breaking open here, and yeah, I mean, black's got to be really careful here. I mean, white's got a lot of possibilities. We've got b takes c6, of course, just to open the b file. I mean, there's even moves like b6, which would just totally cut the black position in half, really, because you know, there's just at the end there's just no room. Would just be a little bit unclear how you'd actually break through. Although, yeah, you know, breaks like d5 or f5 are not stupid at all somehow, so I wouldn't even rule out being able to win that position. But I think, you know, for myself, I'd be looking to take on c6 and invade on the b file somehow. What Torch did was takes, and then he played the move bishop a5, and the idea after that was b6 bishop c3. So basically just trying to get rid of that knight, which obviously would be a pretty nice piece for exploiting some of these weak squares. And yeah, just trying to keep white at bay like that. But Leela, again, just incredibly patient all the time. And you know, you always wonder with some of Leela's manoeuvring, you know, is this really necessary, the way that Leela does it? Just seems to take forever. But the basic idea is Leela wants to get rid of that rook on the a file. And well, it's a little bit of a, yeah, slightly odd way of doing that, but it's, you know, super safe, just avoiding any sort of possible counterplay from the rook, and the rook goes. Queen b8, rook f1, protecting the pawn, f5 from Stockfish. So yeah, I mean, at least getting some space, getting some air for the king, but of course giving a weak square on e6, and it sort of passes imperceptibly somehow, but with this pawn structure from white, actually this knight is absolutely immobilized on e8. It's got no square at all. I certainly hadn't quite realized this when playing through the game the first time. So actually there's Leela's just rendered this e8 knight completely useless, and well, got possibilities of invading on the a file, and also got the e6 pawn to attack. So, well, a file, we can't go there yet because the f4 pawn is weak, so Leela just plays the calm move bishop c1, rook f7, queen e2, hitting the pawn on e6, rook e7, rook f3, another very nice way for Leela to move the rook over to the a file. So queen a8 will be met by rook a3 with tempo. And at some stage, I think probably immediately we'd probably have a knight f4 tactic, I think, but that'll happen, and yeah, we'll for the rest, yeah, you know, black can't really do anything at all. So just waiting, bishop f1, rook d7, queen e1, Leela just shuffling around. Queen e5, there we are. The queen is back on e5, and again it's even stronger, and I mean, it's quite amazing how this queen is working so well together with the pawns. I think that's what Leela understood really well. I mean, because the queen came to e5, and then Leela played the pawns to c5 and g5, and then the later one to b6, and somehow, you know, that whole harmony of a queen just with the pawns around it, just preventing anything from getting to it, you know, that's worked out really well. So king g8 played, actually sort of a pawn sacrifice offered, but not taken, just bishop c4. Why would you give black any sort of counterplay? And now the rook's coming into the a file. Rook e7, bishop b3, queen f8. And the question is, how is white going to break through? Well, for Leela it's pretty clear. You just look at the moves it's suggesting, and also some other engine games. Basically, a bishop's going to be sacrificed for these two pawns, and then we're going to have two passed b and c pawns to come along. So bishop a4, queen f7, bishop d2, king f8, and now Leela's queen steps off to d6, king g8, and we sacrifice the piece as promised. But what I found really striking about this was that so king f8, Torch can't do anything at all, just completely tied up. What's the first thing that Leela does now that it's sacrificed the piece? Does it try and power through somehow, find some tactics? No, it just plays the move queen d6, king g8, and then queen e5 back, just re-centralizing, re-establishing that perfect harmony in the position. And after king f8, many moves, but bishop a5 was what Leela went for, just protecting the pawn on b6, and so threatening the move c6. Torch played knight takes f4, all getting a bit desperate now. c6, c7, knight d3, finally moving the queen away from e5. But after queen b5, what have we got? Well, threats all over the place. Torch found nothing better than queen f6, but doesn't particularly improve things. And after g takes f6, it was mate within 7 or 8 moves. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that one. Leela is quite amazing engine. You know, from time to time it plays games like this that you can't imagine any other engine playing, and does it in a way that you can't really imagine any other engine doing. And it's not necessarily that it's, you know, better than anything else, but it is quite striking that you can have, you know, engines like Stockfish and Torch and Dragon, and you know, that they have a certain way of playing, and that Leela's just going about things in a completely different way. I mean, that's what makes it that's what makes the engine world so joyful to watch, frankly, you know, because even though, you know, a lot of the NNUE engines play quite similar chess, they all have their own little wrinkles, and you've got Leela playing something quite different as well. You know, it's that's what makes it so good, you know. But really impressed with this. Just this move queen e5 that, again, I would never really have considered at all. I'm pretty confident about that. And then just the way it just became a motif. I think this weaving of this pattern with the queen and the pawns on dark squares is really very impressive. I've never seen anything like it, I have to say. And not in engine chess, not in human chess. And then the way somehow that you know, Leela taking its time there, but the queen getting chased away at various moments, and then afterwards just coming back, you know, re-establishing that harmony, obviously, that Leela had discovered in this position. And yeah, actually I liked very much the whole plan of pushing the queenside pawns like this, very clear, very easy. And then this whole thing, you know, with playing the pawn to b6 as well, and all of a sudden, you know, as if by magic, this knight on e8 just has no squares at all. Really incredible. And then, yeah, lots of nice little things, typical Leela things, you know, seems to be taking ages before you take control of the A file, but it's all perfectly safe, of course. And then the queen returning to e5, and then, yeah, this lovely little idea, you know, where you play the queen to d6, sack, and then just re-establish the harmony in the position with queen e5. You know, it's yeah, really quite astounding game, and really impressive. I like this one very much indeed. There we are. Hope you enjoyed that. Why not give a like, subscribe, tell your friends. Take a look at my new book, Reengineering the Chess Classics. If you like the analysis I do on this channel, I'm sure you will love the book, and it's at a good discount at the moment. Already a good price on Forward Chess, with an extra $5 off, because I'm the Forward Chess Author of the Month for August, and still a little bit of September as well. But you know, otherwise, thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that one, and well, keep watching. Got lots more interesting stuff for you. Thanks for watching.